Hi, so in this video I'll be sharing another of my major takeaways from the book The Millionaire Next Door, which is my favorite, well, one of my favorite finance books. So The Millionaire Next Door, how the book came about is the authors decided they wanted to study millionaires essentially through surveying them to understand, do they have any common traits that has led them to actually become millionaires ultimately. And so what's really fascinating is initially they had a certain misconception about millionaires, and very much as a result of media that we're exposed to. So when they first brought in their group one millionaires to interview them and ask them a series of questions, they thought, we want to make these millionaires feel really comfortable. So, let's make sure we bring the most expensive wines, and, let's make sure we serve caviar and, what they thought, millionaires would eat and drink. But what surprised them was when the millionaires came, firstly, how they dressed. They dressed just very ordinary looking. They were expecting them, they came all with their suits and everything ready for, these millionaires to make them feel comfortable and at home. And these millionaires came just dressing very kind of casually. And then they noticed the millionaires feeling and looking very awkward, not really eating the food that was very fancy and sort of fine dining, and even the drinks. And then after actually interviewing them, they realize, oh my God, we completely got this wrong. Majority of millionaires look like ordinary people, dress like ordinary people, eat like quote unquote ordinary people. So the next group that they brought in, they made sure the food was more of what they actually ate, and so on and so forth. Which brings me to one of the key messages of the book, which is frugality is the key to affluence. So this is quite opposite to what a lot of people think, because it doesn't seem to make logical sense, but actually when you unpack it further, it makes complete sense. So essentially, just to break down what this statement means, it means that the reason why the majority of millionaires are millionaires is because they are frugal with money. They do not waste their money. They literally, so if I look at some of the stats that they talked about in the book, at least 50% of millionaires live on a budget, and the ones who don't like a strict budget, they will do this principle called pay yourself first. So they'll put a certain percent of their money aside for savings and investing before they live off it. So in future videos I'll start to look at ways you can budget and principles of investing, but this is just purely some of the lessons from this book. So another fascinating statistic is about cars. In fact, most millionaires drive a car that's at least 3 years old, because they recognize that it's around the 3-year mark that the value of the car depreciates quite a lot. So again, it's that frugal mindset of, how can I really, save a lot of money? So if I just buy a new car, which interestingly, non-millionaires are more so doing, it means that I'm literally losing the opportunity to save heaps by just waiting 3 years for a particular model. I'm actually reminded of a story of a friend who talked about how she once worked at a bank, and she remembers she can see obviously account holders how much money they held in their balances, and she remembers saying to me, like, I have this guy calling me and really upset and questioning me about the fees, and I'm just like, this guy has so much money, why is he questioning me about these fees and getting on top of what was the point of this fee, and etc., etc. And so for me, it highlights that point of the people who are wealthy, they really care about where their money's going, and they hate wastage. Apparently, for example, even the spouses of millionaires, they tend to be more frugal than, one of the parties, to ensure that they're ultimately protecting their wealth and able to grow it. So the authors share another analogy. So again, that sort of fitness sort of sport analogy to really help us understand this. But they gave the example of when you go outside and you see people jogging, often they are people that don't look like they need to jog. They seem pretty sort of slim and fit. But that's actually exactly the point. The people who don't need to jog are jogging, and that's why they look fit and are fit. So similarly, it's the same with millionaires and people who are quite wealthy. They don't need to be frugal, but that's actually exactly why they are wealthy. It's because they actually are very careful with how they spend their money. Finally, the book does make a point of acknowledging that there are outliers. So there are millionaires who make so much money that they are able to spend so much money but still be millionaires. So for example, they make $2 million and they spend $1 million. So what's their net sort of worth? It's still $1 million, so they're still millionaires. The only thing is, like, the reality is, if that's your type of lifestyle, it'll be interesting to see how long you can sustain it. Because often these millionaires, they either, they're very dependent on making sure they always make that income to be able to maintain that lifestyle, or they are the ones that ultimately do struggle and lose the quote unquote status of millionaireship because of that unfrugal spending habit. So that does bring me to the end of today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please do like, share and comment. Let me know in comments if there's any particular topics you'd like me to cover. But as mentioned, some things I had in mind is, looking at budgeting, especially how can you budget, with the different types of personalities that are out there. So there are kind of more loose ways to budget for people who hate, restrictions, but also at a later stage, looking at investing, some investing principles, and that sort of thing. My name is Ray Harnety, also known as Ray, and I just simply love learning, especially about business and finance, because I believe that it's through financial empowerment that is one of the ways that we can make a greater impact in the world. But thank you for listening.